what kind of power sharing should be there to be more effective in responding to the needs of the time. From the framework of right to self-determination of the Bangsamoro, there are two important aspects that we are looking at. One is defining the political status, the political relationship between the national government and the Bangsamoro. And the other one is on the socio-economic and cultural aspect. These two, if you combine, would constitute the meaning of right to self-determination. Let me read to you some definitions just for us to level up on what power sharing is. And we take this from the Peace Accord Matrix. There are three very important things. One is that power sharing means an arrangement where guaranteed positions are allocated to qualified parties in a new government. No? So in the case of the MNLA, for instance, there were provisions that will appoint ambassadors or people to the COMELEC on a cabinet level or even above. Number two is that power sharing means a specific quota. I like the term. A specific quota of political power in all the three branches of governance. So, how much power in the legislation, how much power in the executive and in the judiciary. And I think that is provided already in both in the 1996 final peace agreement as well as the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro. The other one is a design as a political accommodation to facilitate a transition towards sustainable peace and democracy. So if you combine these three, my feeling is that these three definitions can be applicable in the case of the ongoing peace talks between the MILF and the government in terms of sharing powers. So we are looking here at power sharing in terms of relationship of functions in intergovernmental work. For instance, how much authority is given to the Bangsamoro in terms of running this agency and what are the relationships. So we ask the question, what is going to be the relationship in running the government between the central government and the Bangsamoro? And number two is, what are the principles that will govern this relationship? The third question that we ask is, in case, and this is very important because we had an experience, in case there is a misunderstanding of the interpretation of the agreement, which one will prevail? We are looking at three areas in the power sharing, annexes on power sharing. One is on the reserved powers of the central government. The other one is exclusive powers for the Bangsamoro, and the other one is a shared power or the concurrent powers. In the framework agreement, there are delineated powers for the central government, and there are also for exclusive powers for the Bangsamoro and the shared or concurrent powers. I would like to mention them. One is for reserve powers for the national government, defense and external security, foreign policy, common market and global trade, coinage and monetary policy. This one, some of my friends Maranaos would question this because during the time of Marcos, we had shortage of money and they were making money in Tugaya and the government warned them. So it's not good. So I hope they will not be warned again to make their money. Citizenship and naturalization, postal services, and other powers that may be agreed upon by the parties. For exclusive powers for the Bangsamoro, I read this, accreditation of halal certifying bodies in the Bangsamoro, a justice system in the Bangsamoro, which includes the Sharia justice system and measures to improve the workings of local civil courts. I think this is an improvement of the 1996 Final Peace Agreement. An alternative dispute resolution system. And the big asterisks, customary rights and traditions of the IPs shall be considered in the formation of the justice system. And here when they talk of the Sharia system, they are referring to a system that will only apply to the Muslims. But I think an additional discussion will involve the relationship between the national government and the Bangsamoro, which is asymmetrical. And considering the new structure in ministerial form, there are a lot of things that they have to discuss still. There's one very important value that is attached to power sharing, and that is mutual trust. For me, mutual trust should be the guiding principle, especially if we aim at unity and reconciliation. Meaning, how much trust the government have with the Bangsamoro. And therefore, to me, it is very important that the government, as well as the Bangsamoro and other stakeholders, will not only look into resolving the so-called Bangsamoro question. They should go beyond that. They should establish a relationship, mutual relationship, that will lead to national unity and reconciliation. So it's not enough that they say, we are signing an agreement to resolve the so-called Bangsamoro question. It should not end up there. It should continue by saying we are signing this agreement because we want to forge national unity and reconciliation. Why is this important? Because you see what happened to the arm. The final peace agreement of 1996. After signing the arm, the government did not pay much attention to the arm. And they will tell you they are autonomous. So what else? Okay? And so they did not provide enough support. But they made the arm as a bastion of winning in national election for administration candidate. So this is one thing that I think a lesson that we can learn from the experience. If the present government would neglect the arm at the Bangsamoro after signing an agreement, then I think we will not reach that level of national unity and reconciliation. So this is one area that I consider in the power sharing agreement. In other words, in the bargaining, it should not be a case of we will only give you this, and we will have this, and then send it's finished. No, that is why the power that should be granted to the Bangsamoro should be adequate enough to address the present situation. And we have a situation that is, I think all of you can imagine. Why are things like the Zamboanga siege happening? Why are the attacks in North Cotabato by other armed groups? Now, if you give less power to a new political entity, what can it do to this big problem? So if it does not solve this big problem, then it will end up like what we had at the moment. I will now talk about how shared power becomes instrumental in laying the foundation for national unity and reconciliation. I say that power, political authority or power shall be sufficient enough to effect transformation, to correct injustices, and create space for development. Now, let me tell a little bit about the arm. The arm today has 20 billion budget for 2014. 20 B. And 10 billion goes to personnel. 6 billion to MOOE. And what's the rest? In other words, if you look at the 6 billion, it can only do much. If you want to make ARM at par with other regions, you should give more money in the operation rather than the personnel. So if you don't have that power, because you don't have that resources and you don't have that political authority, what do you expect? This is especially important in a transition period where breaking the culture of social insensitivities, inequalities, and monopoly is most difficult. Actually, the biggest challenge of the Bangsamoro is in not only in the transition, but beyond 2016. Question of monopoly, question of inequalities. These are very structural. How would you be able to resolve that? Much more if you don't have adequate authorities. What can this power be? One is power to draft the basic law. I think this is granted in the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro. Create viable political institution that will ensure clean elections of leaders. Now, this is a big challenge because in 2016, we are going to have a national and regional and local elections. And if the kind of elections we have will not change, I think those who have the experience of cheating, who have the money and have the resources, will have the due advantage. And I'm asking the MILF, you should now learn how to cheat if you want to run in the 2016 elections, because this will still be part of the game. It must also include creating economic agencies that will ensure democratic and more equitable distribution of economic opportunities. So this is another challenge. Will the Bangsamoro be given that power to create institutions or reform existing institutions that are not functional? What institutions are not functional? Many local government units are not really functional. Will they be able to change that? Will they be given that authority to maybe create or reform? In what way they can reform local government units so that we will have good delivery of basic services for common goods? It must also include programs that will provide more sustainable development to all. I think the emphasis is to all. It can be true, it can be said that there are developments that are going on. But, Tanino, who benefits in the dividend of development? It's like the question of the MNLF. There are people in the MNLF asking, who benefited in the dividend of peace during the time of the MNLF? The same question can be asked. Who will benefit in the dividend of development in the new Bangsamoro political autonomy? So there has to be a way that development should be for all. In the discussion of power sharing, for me, these values should be taken into consideration. No? It's not just like bargaining in the market or sidewalk. One is happy, the other one is sad, and they don't see each other again. Here, the bargaining should be different. And finally, I think the government should really support the autonomous government towards building that unity and reconciliation. Therefore, I have the feeling that what the government must do is to allow substantial, adequate, and sufficient political authority for the Bangsamoro so that they can work. They can work with national government towards common good. For me, this is one key that can be done in the discussion of the annex on power sharing. With that note, I would like to thank you for listening to me. Thank you.